Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday the 7th of October. So starting off looking at the news first. Today we've got very little out today. We've got bank holiday in China. That's okay, that's happening. And then we've got later on at 6 p.m. this evening we've got Fed Chair Powell speaking, and that is it. So little to run or get the markets excited from that point of view. Outside of that, of course, Boris Johnson apparently is going to be seeking a Supreme Court ruling on a no-deal Brexit. So I'm not sure if we'll hear more from that, but I'm sure Brexit news will follow through, and of course the Trump effect will continue, although the markets tend to discount those numbers, those comments these days much more. So we're left to the technicals, and where will the technicals take us today then? Well, looking at this euro, we've had a couple of attempts into its daily 21 here. It does look like it could be building up for a break of that. The spoiler amongst it in the short term may be this weekly pivot that sits below. You can see it's a bit of a wedge pattern there at the moment. Now it's a wedge in a rising price level. You would expect a breakout of that to continue to the upside, which is certainly possible. But as I say, if it starts breaking down on the lower side here, well, watch out for that weekly pivot to be hit. So that's the 4 hourly. Let's just come down and look at the hourly here, and this pretty much sums up that wedge. I mean, it's been trying to get up towards last Friday's highs there at different stages, not really managed. The news was pretty soft on Friday from the non-farms, but it's not okay. The headline figure of the lowest unemployment rate for 50 years may have caught some people's imagination, but the fact that they're being paid less may still dawn on people. As it sits at the moment, maybe if we see a starting move this morning, we could be running up towards that R1. Friday's the morning's highs out at 109.90, but maybe back into that towards that R1 Friday's highs. The alternative to that, of course, trend line across the lows here below that 100 MA that sits there. If we see a break of that, well, then we could see it coming down towards that weekly pivot. So it's a bit of an either or preference in the sense of the technical picture here would be a break the upside, but if that doesn't happen, quite mercenary would look at that lower side. The pound is still chopping, difficult. I mean, last week Monday Tuesday it just chopped around. Wednesday we saw a little surge there, or sorry, that was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday we saw the surge, and then Friday it's flat, and now it's flat. So not clear, but it has got a clear trend line at the lows here, which if it breaks, well, it's into its weekly pivot already where it sits because of the consolidation there. If it starts breaking down further, maybe we'll see that S1 targeted today. Alternatively, there is an inverted head and shoulders there, and some people will be looking there. It's not we haven't seen the break of the shoulder yet, so it's still in play. And a break of the trend line that runs across there, well, it gives us the upside towards the L1. So not clear these markets either way, so it really is an each way bet almost. Lacking in clarity. Dollar yen on this time frame where it strengthened up right through to Thursday, Friday. We ended up with doji baht again. We've got a weekly pivot to attack here, which is onto the upside, which correlates the other side of the euro's weekly pivot. Shorter time frames here, it's spiky, choppy. As I said, we were seeing the strength coming back into the yen last week for quite some time. Again, it's I'd prefer to be on the short side of this actually, although we do have that weekly pivot above, and it may be that a trend line across these lows here may suffice as a sort of a line in the sand there. Okay, Aussie dollar. So the Aussie dollar, we're pretty much solid days on Friday. We might see something coming back to its weekly pivot here. It's had a decent push last part of last week, a bit of a retrace. It'll be interesting to see how it reacts to its weekly pivot here. If it gets any sort of bounce, well, it may be played on the long side. It has technically broken the downward trend that was sitting there just about across the tops of the 4-hourly chart here. It has broken through that last week. In the long term, I'm still sort of bearish in the Aussie dollar, but well, we'll see what happens. Just interested in switching this back into, actually this is a 30-minute chart here, but looking at this chart here, looking at the trend across the lows there where it has broken down, and short term it may just come back towards that weekly pivot initially. So that's probably the line in the sand for the Aussie. Maybe see a continuation towards that. If it continues rolling over, well, then my sort of bigger picture of a softer Aussie dollar may prevail. But for now, well, just watch for the weekly pivot. Once that's out of the way, it may give us a bit more of a clue. Canadian dollar not tradable for me most of the time here recently. Okay, last week we did see a spike up there. It's chopping around again where we're seeing it at the moment. It's not the cleanest. I mean, look at this on Thursday, Friday, not a clean market to trade, so there's little reason to go into that any further. New Zealand dollar I've talked about quite a bit recently. It has had a half decent sort of attempt at a bit of a reversal here. As I said in the last couple of weeks, there's a high volume of options, contracts, futures, etc. That are short, and it's an extreme sort of level, which I would expect maybe if that sort of gets cut down a little bit, we may see a bit more of a bounce. Well, we may be seeing that. May have come in part of the way through last week, the entry there, but just watching this week, maybe a move back towards that weekly pivot could give a buy opportunity. I will watch that carefully as we move throughout today, tomorrow. Okay, nothing else there. News-wise, as I said, there's nothing. We got later in the week, we've got FOMC minutes, so we might get a little bit more data coming through there. Make lots of Fed speakers this week. So I think it's the next meeting's the 31st, so they've got plenty of time to carry on talking and giving it a 2 penny worth. So that may create volatility. Just watch out for the times that they're supposed to be talking. We've got the ECB monetary policy minutes later in this week. We've got Bank of England governor speaking. There's the economic financial meeting start on Friday as well. So plenty to stir things up there. Have a great week. Great day. I'll be back tomorrow. Bye for now.